Good morning, everyone. This is our post-scrub briefing for the COTS demonstration flight, and here to talk about what happened during the last part of the countdown this morning is Gwynne Shotwell, the president of SpaceX, and Alan Lindenmoyer, the manager for the NASA Commercial Crew and Cargo Program and the COTS program manager. So we'll begin first with a statement from SpaceX and Gwynne Shotwell. Gwynne?
Thanks, George. So we had a nominal countdown right until about T-minus 0.5 seconds. Engine controller noted high chamber pressure in engine 5. Software did what it was supposed to do, aborted engine 5. Then we went through the remaining engine shutdown. What we're doing now is we are detanking the vehicle, safing the flight termination system, doing what we call T-tip sweeps, which basically clears the ignition fluid, and we should have some technicians up into that engine about noon today. We'll be out there looking for whatever we can find, and we'll put out a statement as soon as we find root cause. The next attempt, assuming whatever we see is repairable, we will go in and try another day on the 22nd. We're looking at a backup day on the 23rd as well. NASA's already taken a look at that day and is go. We need to make sure the range is available, though. We don't currently have the 23rd with the range.
All right, thanks, Gwynne. Alan?
Right, so we're looking at the additional launch opportunities. This 22nd, of course, looks good. That was pre-planned. The 23rd looks like it's a good date from the trajectory, and the station crew says they're ready to support. So we believe we'll have a good day on the 23rd, and then there's a couple days after that that look like it's a good phasing period. So we're ready to support when SpaceX is ready to go.
All right. We'll take some questions now. Please be sure to give your name and affiliation when you get the microphone. And we'll start here in the front with Marcia.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for Ms. Shotwell. I think you said it in your opening remark, but when did the clock actually stop? When was the abort actually called precisely?
T-minus 0.5 seconds.
0.5, half a second left. And at that, up until that point, all 9 engines were firing as they were supposed to?
Engine 5 was increasingly, trending high,
Okay.
but it hit the abort limit at T-minus 0.5.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All other engines were right on. Yep.
That's fine. All right.
We've compared this data to the static fire data as well, and that's one of the reasons why we aborted. It was out of family from static fire.
Was there anything funny seen on number 5 during the test firing?
Nope.
No,
It
nothing.
was rock solid.
All right.
All right, right here.
Can you
Give your name and affiliation.
sorry, this is Clara Moskowitz with Space.com. Is it still possible that it was a sensor failure, or was it definitely an over-high pressure in that engine?
This does not look like a sensor failure.
And is this at all similar to any of the other glitches you've experienced in other countdowns before?
I'm sure we've seen this in engine testing. I don't recall whether we saw this during a static fire or on the pad for flight.
Okay, right here.
Sawyer Rosenstein for Talking Space. I was wondering if this were to occur during launch, how many engines can fail for it to still achieve success? And yes.
It depends on the phase of flight. We need to lift off with all 9, which is why we aborted. You can lose, I believe, up to 2 engines and still make your mission, just not at liftoff.
And the software all worked according to plan for the cutoff?
We cannot blame the software guys for this one.
All right, let's come over here and go to the back here, Dave. Well, that's all right. Go ahead.
Brendan McGarry, Bloomberg News. How many times have you aborted at this moment or this juncture? I know this was the 3rd attempted launch of the Falcon 9. Did the 1 and 2 also have a similar abort?
I believe we aborted with PC pressure high on engine 5 during flight 1, actually, but we had the ability to recycle and fly.
You couldn't this time because of the window?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, in the back.
David Hirsch with NHK. A quick yes, no, and then a follow-up substantive question. On the May 22, possible May 23rd dates you're giving, that's pending the text going to the pad and finding out what happened, I'm assuming.
Correct.
There's a note from Elon earlier that says slightly high combustion chamber pressure, engine 5, will adjust limits for countdown in a few days. How did we reconcile that information with what you're saying?
Well, that was early data. Further analysis of the data that we were able to snatch and take a look at. Looks like it's something we want to go in and inspect.
And finally, obviously, today or maybe tomorrow we'll wake up and there'll be a lot of characterization of this as being potentially even a failure. And I wonder, as someone who's kind of leading the trend here for commercial cargo and potentially commercial crew, how would you react to those sorts of statements?
Yeah, this is not a failure. We aborted with purpose. It would be a failure if we were to have lifted off with an engine trending in this direction.
Ken?
Hi, Ken Kramer, Spaceflight Magazine for Gwynne. If you had to change the engine, how long would that take? What would that involve?
That would take a couple of days. We are looking at that operation. However, we do have the next vehicle here at the Cape in our hangar. So we'll be looking at taking engine 5 off of that vehicle and looking at the op to put it on this one if necessary.
Well, that's still the same amount of time, though, isn't it? If you took the engine off of one rocket and put it on the other, or what are you saying? I'm not sure.
That's a more detailed operation than repairing or just clearing this particular engine. But we're looking at doing that if necessary.
Thanks.
All right, let's go to the telephones. I think we have one phone-in question. Go ahead, Max.
Questions are already answered. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any further questions here? All right, let's go to Jay Barbary.
Jay Barbary, NBC. Mrs. Shotwell, is 23rd launch time, would that be 3:21 a.m.? And could you tell us at what time, what part after the launch, how many plus seconds would it be that you could continue flying with, say, 8 engines and then 7 engines? You say you have to have all 9 to lift off, but somewhere along there you can get along with 8 and then you can get along with 7. Can you tell us where that is?
You know, I can't tell you right now, Jay, but I'll get back with you on that.
Launch time for the 23rd?
That's correct. Launch time on the 22nd is 3:44, and we take off about 20 minutes each day.
So 3:21, is that right? At 3, I think it's 23, is that correct? 3:21 a.m.?
Do you have it? I don't have it with me,
Okay,
but
thank you.
it's approximately the right time frame.
All right, thank you.
All right. James, you have a question, James? Okay. All right, right here.
Jason Potter with Wired. Can you just clarify again, were all 9 engines, did the ignition begin for all 9 engines, and that was the flash we saw? And
That is correct. We had nominal ignition for all 9, and all engines, with the exception of engine 5, trended nominally. Engine 5 started fine and then started trending high, chamber pressure, excuse me.
All right, any further questions? All right, one right here in the front.
With the Valencia voice, I'm just curious, since it came down to 0.5 seconds before the launch, did the rocket lift off at all? Like, did it raise at all, or just stay down?
No.
Okay.
We hold the vehicle down with purpose to watch for this exact issue. You want, just like a pilot at the end of a runway revs the engines and looks at the gauges. We were revving the engines, we were looking at the gauges, and we decided not to fly.
Okay, Irene, do you have a question?
Thanks. Irene Klotz with Reuters for Gwynne. I know it's kind of early for rocket school, but typically what sorts of things might cause this kind of high pressure reading? Thanks.
High pressure coming from high temperatures, which is likely low fuel in the combustion. Well, if the valve wasn't opened, although I was able to check that before I came over. It looks like the fuel pre-valve was fully open. So now we're just going to have to go in and spend a little bit more time looking at the data.
Mark Ratterman with Talking Space. Is the inspection you talk about doing later today, is that a visual? Is that involve disassembly? How complicated is that inspection of that engine?
We can, we'll do a visual, obviously, up in the chamber, look at the fuel ring and the pintle tip. I believe we'll probably bore scope the pump as well. We'll only disassemble if we have to.
Okay, another question right here.
Yeah, just because it sounds like there was a similarity to this on the first attempt of the Falcon 9. Do you get a sense that there is a pattern there, that it is the valve, or that there's some kind of similarity between what happened on an earlier mission?
On Flight 1, I don't believe the engine was trending quite the way this one was. We had a narrower abort on Flight 1.
Okay, Marcia, you have a follow-up?
We were told you were going to try every 3 days, and so now you've got just a one-day difference between the 22nd and 23rd. Could you explain why 23rd is possible now, when it wasn't really in the mix before?
I did talk about the 23rd as an opportunity yesterday. In general, we have very good opportunities every 3 days, but it really depends on the trajectory of the International Space Station. I am not an orbit analyst, so I can't help you much more than that, but I'll try to follow up with you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, James Dean.
James Dean with Florida Today. Is the engine swap out, if you determine that's necessary, the only thing that would force you to roll back into the hangar? Or if you do have to roll into the hangar, does that determine your next earliest opportunity? Could you still get off on the 22nd, or would that push you to a certain number of days?
We should be able to roll back into the hangar and get back to the 22nd. I don't want to speculate on what would cause us to do that or not. I just don't have enough data. We wanted to come here as quickly as we can and get you the information we had. But no, we roll back. We can roll in and roll back by the 22nd.
All right, any more questions? All right, in that event, we did get an update from Houston. If we launch on the 23rd, our launch time would be 3:22. So that means on the 22nd, 3:44, on the 23rd, 3:22. All right, in that event, that will conclude this briefing. Thank you.
Shoot, I wanted to mention the kids, the Nana